The night was quiet on the frozen planet of Arvin III, a world wrapped in ice and silence. Where the wind sang through broken metal and empty shelters, snow covered everything, shining under the pale blue moons like glass dust scattered across the ground. Inside a small human outpost, heaters hummed weakly. Trying to keep the freezing air away, the humans there were survivors of a cargo ship crash. Engineers and workers who had built makeshift shelters to survive. Among them lived a small boy named Eli Turner, only 5 years old, with bright brown eyes and a heart far bigger than his tiny body. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He kept hearing something outside, soft cries, faint and shivering, like the sound of kittens lost in the dark. He looked at his mother sleeping, her arm wrapped around a broken thermal blanket. And then he looked at his own, small and warm. He bit his lip, his little heart beating fast. Eli climbed out of bed, put on his tiny boots, and wrapped the blanket around his shoulders. The door creaked as he pushed it open, and a gust of freezing wind hit his face. The stars above glittered like frozen fire, and his breath came out in white clouds. He walked slowly into the snow, following the sound. Past the crash site, half buried in ice, lay a broken alien shuttle. Its hull was covered in strange glowing patterns, like writing. But alive, the sound came from inside, and Eli squeezed through a crack in the wreck, his small body shivering but determined. Inside, he found them, 2 alien children. Twins, maybe, they were small. With pale blue skin and silver eyes, their thin hands shaking. They had no clothes, only torn fabric. Their faces were tired, eyes wide with fear. And when they saw the human boy, they tried to hide under a piece of metal. Eli crouched down, his breath warm in the cold air. "It's okay," he whispered softly. "Don't be scared." He pulled off his blanket and wrapped it around them both. The aliens trembled, their fingers touching the soft fabric as if they couldn't believe it was real. The warmth spread slowly, and their shaking stopped a little. One of them, the girl, blinked at him and whispered something in a strange, musical language Eli didn't understand. But he smiled anyway. He patted their hands and said, "You'll be warm now, okay." Outside, the wind howled like a living thing. But inside that broken ship, something beautiful happened. The alien's silver eyes glowed faintly, a soft blue light reflecting off the metal walls. For the first time since their crash, they didn't feel alone. Eli stayed with them for a long time, sitting on the cold floor, telling them stories about his mother, about Earth, about chocolate ice cream, and about stars that looked like diamonds in the sky. They didn't understand his words, but they listened, and somehow they smiled. When the cold got worse, Eli hugged them tighter under the blanket, his small body pressed against theirs, sharing every bit of warmth he had left. The alien boy's tiny fingers reached up and touched Eli's face. Confused by the kindness of this strange creature, far above, a satellite recorded the faint energy signal from the wreck, a pulse of mixed bioenergy from human and Varan DNA. It was weak but unique, a small warmth glowing on a frozen world. The humans at the outpost would later find it and wonder how it began. As dawn approached, the stars dimmed, and light spilled over the ice fields. The broken shuttle shimmered in pink and gold reflections. The twins slept under the blanket, and Eli sat beside them, his head nodding down, finally falling asleep. When the rescue patrol found him hours later, they froze in shock. A small human boy curled beside 2 alien children, all 3 wrapped in the same blanket, safe, alive, breathing softly. The commander, a hardened soldier, knelt down and lifted the blanket gently, his face softened by the stars. "He saved them," he whispered. Eli's mother ran across the snow, tears streaming down her face as she picked him up. The alien twins woke and reached out for him. Not wanting to let go, everyone watched, silent. The image burned in their minds, the boy, the aliens, and the blanket later. When they returned to the outpost, the story spread quickly. A 5-year-old human had shared his warmth with the enemy's children, and they had survived together through the coldest night. No one could explain why their body temperatures had stabilized or why the twins' life readings had improved the moment he touched them. But the scientists would soon learn something strange. The Varan species, cold-blooded and once at war with humans, carried dormant empathic cells in their brain. They responded to emotional warmth, not just heat. And for the first time in history, those cells had awakened because of a child's simple kindness. That night, the stars above Arvin 3 glowed a little brighter, as if the universe itself was watching. A small act of compassion had sent ripples across space, a beginning of something no one could see yet. The story of the boy and his blanket was only starting, and somewhere deep inside those alien twins, a spark had ignited, one that would soon change the galaxy forever. Morning came slowly to the frozen planet. The wind had softened, and the pale sun pushed through the gray clouds, casting long silver shadows across the snow. Inside the human outpost, people moved quietly, whispering about the miracle they had seen. A human boy had survived the storm and saved 2 alien children. The command tent was filled with tension. Commander Reeves stood beside the medical unit, staring at the 2 alien twins lying on stretchers. Their skin was pale blue, glowing softly under the heaters. Small frost crystals melted on their hair, dripping like tears. They looked fragile, almost too perfect for such a cold world. "They're stable now," said Dr. Marin. Checking the scanner, their body temperature is rising. "Faster than expected?" Reeves frowned. "And the boy?" The doctor smiled faintly. "Sleeping like an angel. No frostbite, no harm. Just tired." Everyone in the tent went quiet for a moment, no one knowing how to explain what they had witnessed. When Eli woke up, he rubbed his eyes and looked around. His mother held him close, crying softly into his hair. But Eli's first question was not about himself. "Where are they?" he asked. "The twins." Reeves glanced at Marin, then nodded. The doctor led him to the medical bay. The twins were awake now, their silver eyes following every movement. When Eli walked in, their faces lit up. The girl whispered something in her language, a sound that seemed like music carried on the air. Then she reached her small hand out, and Eli grabbed it without fear. The soldiers watching felt something strange stir in their hearts. Reeves cleared his throat. "Eli, they're called the Varan, we think," he said. "They were enemies once in the war." Eli looked up at him, confused. "Enemies?" he asked. But they were cold. Reeves didn't know what to say. He turned away, because in that moment, the words of a 5-year-old made more sense than all his years of orders. By the next day, the whole base knew about the blanket boy. Some laughed, some shook their heads, but no one could ignore what they saw. The twins, once terrified, now followed Eli everywhere. They refused to eat unless he was near. They slept only when he sat by their side. Dr. Marin began studying their vital signs and noticed something amazing. Whenever Eli held their hands, their heart rates synchronized with his, their brain patterns calmed. It was as if his presence was healing them. "This isn't science," Reeves muttered. "It's something else." In the evenings, the base lights flickered under the freezing wind, and Eli would sit beside the twins, telling them stories. He talked about Earth, about animals, about blue oceans and green forests. The twins didn't understand the words, but they listened with shining eyes. Sometimes they laughed, sometimes they just stared at him. Outside, snow kept falling, but inside the camp, something was warming. The soldiers stopped calling them Varin. They started calling them the Children of Frost. People brought them food, clothes, even toys. For the first time, the base didn't feel like a cold metal prison. It felt like a home. But far beyond the frozen sky, deep in space, a signal was traveling. The Varin fleet had received a distress pulse from the twins' crashed shuttle. And now, a ship was coming, a council ship, carrying soldiers and authority. Their orders were simple: recover the twins and erase all traces of contact with humans. 3 nights later, a bright light appeared in the sky. The radar operator shouted, "Incoming vessel detected." Bearing west, Commander Reeves rushed to the window. "It's not human," he said grimly. The ground trembled as a sleek silver ship descended through the clouds. Inside the outpost, panic began to rise. Soldiers grabbed weapons. Scientists hid data drives. Eli clung to his mother. The twins started shaking violently, whispering in their language. They could feel the fear coming closer. They're linked to the approaching mines screaming danger. Reeves gave the order to prepare defenses. But before they could do anything, the twins' eyes glowed bright white. Their voices merged into one, echoing through the air. The lights flickered, and the base's systems froze. Dr. Marin gasped. They're connecting to something. To someone. Eli stepped forward, holding out his hands. "It's okay," he whispered. "Don't be scared." The twins stopped trembling and turned to him. Their eyes softened. They reached out and touched his forehead. And for a brief moment, Eli saw what they saw: flashes of ships, cities, fire, war, and then silence. He saw that their people had been taught that humans were monsters, cold and cruel, but now, through his eyes, they saw warmth, laughter, kindness. It was breaking the chain of hate that had lasted for generations. Then, outside, the Varin ship landed. The ramp opened, revealing soldiers in black armor. They walked forward with weapons raised, demanding the return of the assets. Commander Reeves stood firm. "They're not assets," he said. "They're children," before a shot could be fired. Lyra, the alien girl, stepped in front of Eli. Holding the small blanket he had given her, her voice trembled but strong. "Human." "Good," she said slowly, her first words in English. Everyone froze. Even the alien soldiers stopped moving. The translator unit on their armor beeped, replaying her words across the air. "Human." "Good." For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. The commander of the alien squad hesitated, looking at the small girl wrapped in human fabric, and at the human boy standing beside her. Then he slowly lowered his weapon, up in the sky. Satellites caught every second of it. The image of a Varin child defending a human spread across hundreds of systems within hours. A message was sent to the Galactic Council. A message that would not be ignored that night. As the stars returned over Arvin 3, Eli sat with the twins under the same blanket again. The cold wind blew outside, but around them, everything felt warm. They didn't know it yet, but their friendship had already begun to melt the frost between two worlds. Snow still fell outside the human outpost, but something had changed in the air. The soldiers no longer called the aliens the Frost Twins. They now called them Eli's friends. Commander Reeves allowed them to move freely around the base. Though guards followed quietly, the human crew had never seen aliens laugh before. Yet these two did, whenever Eli was near, every day. Dr. Marin studied them carefully. She noticed their health improving faster than any known rate. Their wounds healed, their energy stabilized, and the strange silver light in their eyes pulsed with rhythm. "They respond to him," she said softly. Pointing to Eli, his emotions guide them. Like warmth in darkness, Reeves crossed his arms. A child connecting two species. Who would have believed this? The twins. Lyra and Cale were learning English little by little. They repeated words Eli taught them: blanket, friend, home, warm when Eli laughed. They laughed too. When he frowned, their light dimmed. It was like their hearts were connected, invisible but strong. One evening, Eli sat beside the heater, drawing stars on a sheet of metal. Lyra leaned over, watching with wide eyes. "This one," Eli said, pointing at a big star he drew, "is Earth, my home." She tilted her head, her voice soft. "Home," she whispered. The sound made Eli smile. Then suddenly, both twins froze. Their glowing eyes turned bright white again, and the air in the room became heavy. The lights flickered. Dr. Marin ran in. "What's happening?" she shouted. Reeves looked at the scanners. "They're broadcasting something," he said. "But not through our systems." A humming sound filled the air, deep and powerful. Eli held their hands tighter. "It's okay," he said. "I'm here." The twins' breathing slowed, and then they began to speak in their own language. The sound echoed like wind and water, rhythmic and sad. The base computer translated fragments: fear, warmth, human, kind. Suddenly, the screen flashed with alien symbols. The broadcast had gone beyond the planet, reaching deep into the void. Across the Varan communication network, an unexpected signal appeared, not military, not command, but emotional. A shared pulse of feeling and memory. Within hours, ships and stations across the Varan sector received it. Some ignored it, some tried to trace it. But others listened, and they felt it, the warmth, the kindness. The child's small voice whispering, "You'll be warm now," replayed across systems once filled with cold orders and war commands. Back on Arvin 3, chaos filled the base. "We're being tracked," shouted a soldier. "They'll find us." Commander Reeves ordered all transmissions blocked. But it was too late. The message had already gone out. "The whole galaxy's watching," Dr. Marin whispered. "And they're not seeing soldiers or enemies. They're seeing children." That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, looking at the stars. Lyra and Kale sat beside him. Their small hands touched the glass. "Stars cold," Kale said softly. "Yes," Eli replied. "But maybe not forever." He smiled. "Maybe they just need a blanket, too." The twins giggled, though they didn't fully understand, yet their eyes glowed gently, like soft lamps in the dark, far above, in the orbit of Arvin 3. The Galactic Council had already received reports. The Varan ambassador demanded immediate control of the situation. "Those children belong to our people," he declared. "The human interference is a violation of interstellar law." But other council members hesitated. "A violation of law, maybe," one said quietly, "but also a spark of peace." Back at the outpost, things grew tense again. 2 council scout ships arrived in orbit, their silver hulls shining under the twin moons. Reeves knew what was coming. "They'll send soldiers to take the twins," he said grimly. Dr. Marin looked at Eli, who was playing with them. "He won't let them go," she whispered. Later that night, the ground shook as the scout ships landed. Lights flooded the base, and metallic voices called out through loudspeakers, "Surrender the Varan children immediately." The humans stood their ground. Eli's mother held him close, but he pulled free. "They're my friends," he said. "You can't take them." The alien soldiers marched forward, their armor glowing. The twins clung to Eli, shaking. Commander Reeves stepped in front. "They're just kids." He shouted, "If you want to fight, fight me." But the aliens didn't respond. Their orders were clear then. Something strange happened. Lyra looked up, her silver eyes glowing like fire. She raised her small hand, and the air vibrated. A beam of light shot from her palm into the sky, forming shapes, pictures, memories, Everyone stopped and stared. Images appeared in the air, glowing like ghosts. They saw Eli wrapping his blanket around the twins, saw the moment he smiled and whispered words of comfort, saw how they had survived together. The alien commander lowered his weapon, his voice trembling. This is truth. The transmission spread instantly to the Council's fleet. Every screen, every ship showed the same image. A human boy saving alien children. The story spread faster than any propaganda ever could. The Varan soldiers looked at each other, unsure. Dr. Marin whispered, "She's showing them what love looks like." Reeves nodded. "She's sending a message, not to their minds, but to their hearts." The soldiers backed away slowly. The commander raised his hand and gave a short salute to Eli. Then the ships lifted off, disappearing into the clouds. No one spoke for a long time. That night, the campfire burned bright. Eli sat with the twins beside him, wrapped in the same blanket, the air still cold. But it didn't feel harsh anymore. Somewhere, far away in the stars, people were watching, listening, and for the first time in generations, they didn't see monsters. They saw hope. The message of the twins had begun, and it would echo through the galaxy, long after the snow stopped falling. The frozen winds of Arvin III howled across the plains, but the human base stood bright with lights and warmth. Every person inside knew something world-changing had happened. A message from the twins had spread like fire across the stars, and no one could stop it now. News reached the Galactic Council within hours. The broadcast of a human child saving alien twins had been replayed millions of times. Some called it a miracle, others called it propaganda, but all agreed it was impossible to ignore. On human worlds, people watched the recording in silence. A small boy, no older than 5, giving away his blanket to save the children of a former enemy. Soldiers, mothers, and diplomats wept quietly. The story spread faster than any fleet could travel. On Varan worlds, the effect was even greater. The people who had grown up believing humans were monsters suddenly saw a different truth. They saw a child's eyes filled not with hate, but kindness. They saw warmth in a world that had always been cold. And something began to change inside them. Protests started. Citizens demanded the council explain why such kindness was hidden from them. "Are humans really our enemies?" they shouted. "Or are they just like us?" The council tried to silence them. But truth could not be contained. Not this time. Back on Arvin III, Commander Reeves watched the reports come in. Dr. Marin stood beside him. "It's spreading everywhere," she said. "Even on the core Voran worlds." Reeves exhaled slowly. "That boy," he murmured. "He's done more than any general or diplomat ever could, Eli." Meanwhile, didn't understand any of the politics. He just wanted his friends to be safe. He spent his days drawing, teaching the twins simple words, and running through the snow. Sometimes he looked at the sky and asked, "Do you think the stars are happy now?" Lyra would smile. "Stars warm," she'd say softly, "but peace never comes easily." In the shadows of the council chambers, angry voices shouted, "End this infection of emotion," one commander said. "If the people see humans as equals, the war ends. And our control dies," another nodded. "Then destroy the source, silence the planet, soon after." Deep in orbit above Arvin III, a new fleet appeared. It wasn't a rescue force. It was an execution squad. Their orders were simple: erase the outpost, erase the message, end the story before it became legend. Alarms blared across the human base. "Incoming ships," shouted the radar officer. Hundreds of them. Commander Reeves looked up at the sky, his jaw tight. "Evacuate the civilians. Protect the boy and the twins at all costs," he barked. Eli's mother grabbed him. "We have to go," she whispered. "It's dangerous." But the twins clung to him, crying softly. "No leave," Lyra said. "Stay warm." Eli shook his head. "I won't leave you," he said, voice trembling but firm. Outside, explosions lit up the horizon. The sky burned with plasma fire. The soldiers took positions. Firing at the descending Varan ships, the ground shook, snow turned to steam. Yet through the chaos, a strange calm filled the air. Eli and the twins stood together at the center of the base. Holding the same blanket, it fluttered in the wind. Glowing faintly under the light, Dr. Marin screamed. "Get them to cover." But before anyone could move, the twins' eyes began to glow, brighter than ever before. A wave of light burst out from them, spreading through the camp like ripples on water. Every weapon froze mid-fire. Every soldier stopped in place. The snow lifted in the air, glowing with silver dust. The twins' voices spoke together, echoing through the minds of everyone. No more cold. No more war. The light spread upward, touching the sky. It reached the ships above, where alien soldiers paused mid-battle. Their hands trembling, many dropped their weapons, tears running down their faces without knowing why. They felt it, the warmth, the compassion, the human heartbeat that had changed everything. Eli stood between the twins, his small hands holding theirs. "It's okay," he whispered. "No one needs to be afraid." The light from their joined hands turned golden now. The blanket around them lifted, swirling like wings of fire and snow. Commander Reeves fell to his knees, unable to look away. "This is impossible," he whispered. Dr. Marin smiled faintly through tears. "No, Commander," she said. "This is hope." The ships in orbit stopped firing. Their captains couldn't explain why their crews refused to fight. But deep inside, something had awakened, empathy, long buried under fear and orders. The Council's live feeds went silent, then flickered back on, showing the same image across hundreds of worlds. A human boy and two alien children, standing hand in hand under a silver sky, surrounded by light. The war that had lasted for centuries ended not with weapons, but with warmth. Hours later, the light faded, the snow fell again, quiet and soft. The alien ships withdrew, leaving the planet untouched. Commander Reeves watched as peace signals began flooding in from distant systems. "The war's over," he said in disbelief. Eli looked up at the twins and smiled. "See," he said. "Told you the stars just needed a blanket." They laughed, the sound gentle and bright. That night, as the humans repaired their base, messages arrived from both species. Leaders from every world wanted to meet, to talk, to understand. And at the heart of it all was a 5-year-old boy whose kindness had melted the ice of hate. The legend of the boy who melted the war had begun. But for Eli, it was simple. He just wanted his friends to be warm. The war had ended, but its echoes still whispered across the galaxy. Ships once built for destruction now carried peace banners, and soldiers who once fought with hatred now worked side by side, all because of a boy, a blanket, and a moment of kindness that had changed everything. On the frozen world of Arvin III, the snow had melted for the first time in decades. Rivers of crystal water ran through the valleys, and new life began to grow from the cracks of ice. The outpost that had once been a lonely shelter was now a monument. Visited by humans and aliens alike, Eli Turner was older now, taller, but his eyes still held the same warmth. The twins, Lyra and Kale, had grown too, their silver eyes brighter, their laughter still soft and musical. They were no longer refugees, no longer afraid. They were ambassadors of a new age every year. Representatives from across the stars came to Arvin III to celebrate Unity Day. They came to honor the small act that united species once sworn to destroy each other. The blanket, old and worn, yet forever clean, was kept in a crystal case inside the main hall. It glowed faintly under the light, as if remembering the warmth that once saved lives. Reporters always asked Eli the same question. "How did you know what to do that night?" He would smile shyly and say, "I didn't know. I just didn't want them to be cold." His answer would always silence the crowd, because it reminded everyone that peace hadn't come from wisdom or strategy, but from a child's simple heart. One day, many years later, Eli stood on a stage built from shining glass and steel. Around him stood leaders from hundreds of worlds, humans. Varen and many others. The Galactic Unity Charter was being signed, an agreement that promised no war, no slavery, and no hate between races. Lyra stood beside him, wearing a flowing silver robe, her voice clear and calm. "Once," she said, "our people lived in fear and frost. But one boy showed us warmth. He didn't ask what we were. He only asked if we were cold." The hall went silent as her words echoed. Kale placed his hand on the crystal case that held the blanket. "This," he said, "is more than cloth. It is proof that compassion can travel faster than light. It can melt any wall, even those built from fear." The audience stood in quiet awe. And then applause thundered through the hall. Commander Reeves, now older, sat in the front row, his uniform replaced with a peace insignia. Dr. Marin sat beside him, tears in her eyes. "We've come so far," she whispered. "And it all started with him." Reeves nodded. A 5-year-old did what armies couldn't. As the ceremony ended, Eli walked up to the glass case. He pressed his palm against it. Remembering that freezing night long ago, he could almost hear the wind again, the cries of 2 small voices in the dark, and the feeling of their tiny hands clutching his. He smiled softly. "Stay warm," he whispered under his breath. After the event, Eli and the twins walked outside. The night sky was clear, filled with stars that shimmered like silver dust. The moons reflected on the water, painting everything in light. "Do you think the stars remember?" Eli asked. Lyra looked up, her eyes glowing. "They never forget warmth," she said. From that day forward, the story of the boy and the blanket was taught in every school across the known systems. Children from hundreds of worlds grew up hearing how one act of compassion had ended centuries of hate. They learned that kindness was not weakness, that even the smallest gesture could rewrite destiny. Generations passed, but the legend never faded. The blanket remained untouched. Glowing softly within its glass chamber, scientists had studied it, but no one could explain why it never decayed. Some said it absorbed the energy of that moment, the warmth of life itself. Centuries later, starships bore the insignia of the Unity Fleet, an emblem of a small hand holding a blanket surrounded by stars. Their mission was not conquest, but rescue and peace, wherever they went. They carried the message born on Arvin 3. No more cold, no more war. One of those ships carried a name written in gold letters along its side, the Eli Turner. It traveled the galaxy, bringing aid to the lost and the forgotten, spreading warmth where there was only darkness, and deep within the galactic archives, a recording played endlessly, a small voice saying, "You'll be warm now," the voice of a child who had once walked into the cold with nothing but a blanket and a heart full of love. As the stars glowed above Arvin 3, a soft wind carried the sound of laughter, 2 alien voices and 1 human. Echoing through time, the galaxy had changed forever, and every being who looked to the night sky remembered the same truth, that sometimes it only takes 1 small act of kindness to melt a universe of frost, and 1 small human boy to change the stars.